So you were saying that time and space are fundamental in a way that most people don't realize.
Yeah,
Could you just continue?
I think that's right. First of all, they're ubiquitous. Every experience you have has a spatial and temporal aspect, and I think we wouldn't recognize it if it didn't have that aspect. And I would say that's true of every animal. So from the very beginning, wherever you find consciousness or awareness of your surroundings, you think in terms of time and space. Even bacteria do that. So that's one thing. Furthermore, time and space are the fundamental concepts in causality. I mean, I think causality is something which is fundamental. You have to know enough about the causality of people of the way your surroundings are in order to say find food, find mates, find shelter, all the things you need, and avoid predators. All of these involving things of doings, in other words, actions in this world which have to be guided by your causal sense. So it works quite importantly in that. Furthermore, time and space are very simple in the sense that they have lots and lots of symmetries in them. I mean, you can think of time is represented nicely by the real numbers. Space is represented nicely by triples of real numbers. Let's say latitude, longitude, and altitude, for example. And furthermore, it's, as I say, you have symmetry, so you can have something occurring at a different, in the certain vicinity of a certain space-time point, and the same kind of thing occurring at a different space-time point. And that means that you have the concept of repetition. And one particular form of repetition is yourself over time. You at this particular time, or the scenario that you're in at this particular time, is going to have aspects of it which just persist through time. And if we did not have that, if we didn't have things that are solid and stay in place for a long time, structures like houses and so forth, I think we would be completely disoriented.
Or maybe not exist at all.
Well, you know, we'd be nomads, so to speak.
Where do you see the neglect of space and time coming in? Do you see them being neglected in other common theories that are floating around?
Yeah, I mean, economics. When I was going to grad school, the center of it was considered to be general equilibrium theory. Equilibrium theory tells of each individual household the pattern of its consumption, the pattern of its labor supply, what jobs it has. Each firm, again, had inputs and outputs and labor force and transformations, and all of this had no particular reference to space, at least, and it really didn't have any reference to time. That's why it's called equilibrium. And I mean, there were sneaky ways of trying to get time into it. For example, you could talk about the price system involves futures prices, so that you have anticipation of the system of prices going over time, and you can think of everybody having a concept of what these things will be. In equilibrium, people have omniscient concepts of what time will be, prices will be not only now, but in the future. So it's all compressed into one single point, and general equilibrium theory consists of a bunch of contracts and so forth, patterns that we plan and we know for sure are going to occur in the future. And needless to say, this is complete nonsense from the point of view of what people can actually assimilate, and how sure they can be. I mean, if you add probability, you've got still another layer of complexity on top of all this. And you could say, why do economists concentrate on general equilibrium theory? Why do they do things like that? And why did I assume that people are completely rational? The answer is, it emanates from the bounded rationality of economists themselves. You could not, it's much more difficult to have a theory where people think about things and make different diverse decisions. It's much simpler to think of people having utility functions, maybe all the same kind of utility function, but applied to themselves, and coming up with solutions. In other words, the bounded rationality of economists is why they postulate that the people they study have unbounded rationality.
How much has the theory advanced since then?
I think it has advanced considerably. I think we now are dealing with cases of people who have, say, limited memories and so forth, and we're able to handle more and more complicated concepts which get closer to the real world.
Is that through agent-based simulations or the?
Agent-based simulations is one way of doing it, that's right. And also, the social sciences are talking to each other much more than they used to. So I think things are moving in the right direction. And I just want to give them a little push further in that direction, so to speak.
So that'll be one part of your work. We'll be giving that push, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully. But, and and if I don't survive here, then the push might be delayed a couple of years. I don't know how long, but eventually, I tend to be an optimist that we will. What's the word they use in England? Well, whatever it is, we'll burrow through somehow or other. Although there are major problems ahead of us, and there's a good chance that the human race will not live another century.
Well, let's
Because
look on the bright
we're
side.
now in a position to have an effect on the entire Earth, which is irreversible, and maybe the end of us. What happens, in nature, you have one particular species, maybe because of luck or because of their predators disappear, they become very abundant, but typically something happens to take them down to size. Either new predators appear or diseases appear, epidemics and so forth. And incidentally, that's occurring in the human race too.
Yeah, we'll see. Do you think your book will help save the world if it does come out?
It might.
Well, that'd be good.
It might. Well, I mean, it's not going to save the world in a couple of decades, so we have to be lucky, shall we say.
And you said that the theory today is a lot better. Which of the current thinkers do you think is closest to what you would like to see? Like who represents?
I
what
mean,
you'd
I
like to
can
do
name
the
lots
most?
of people,
Okay.
but I'm not sure that I want to name some people and while excluding others. That's
Okay,
a
fair
matter
enough.
of limited memory on my part. But
Sure.
there are many people that I admire,
Okay.
no doubt about it. But and they tend to be people who are interdisciplinary. In other words, they know very much about their own specialty, but they also know how it relates to the rest of the world, other specialists and the world in general.
Would these same people, though, would they be the ones who run into the problems that are identified in books about public intellectuals, where they're sort of speaking outside of their area of expertise and then getting into trouble?
Well, I mean, the word public intellectual is a little bit different. I mean, that's Richard Posner's book, and he has a rather low opinion of public intellectuals. He considers John Stuart Mill to be the public intellectual that we should all aspire to be. See, the trouble with that is public intellectual is one who is known by the general public and considered to be sort of an expert there, or a general factotum of knowledge and so forth and so on. But fame is a little fleeting. It may not have much relationship to what your actual worth is. And in general, people who are public intellectuals might not have much incentive to actually make themselves useful. So, I mean, that I think is Posner's point of view.
I see.
So I wouldn't call public intellectuals people that I admire per se. There may be some of them I think is an overlap there, but I would talk about people who are, as I say, experts in their field, but see the bigger picture.
Okay. Well, we'll have to look for some of those.